Want to call to order the March 14, 2011 meeting of the East Central Gravity Drainage District. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this gathering that we may seed out and try to do the work of the people of Ascension Parish. Lord, while we're here tonight, let's do a special blessing for the people over in Japan and the surrounding areas that were so hard hit by the earthquake and the tsunami. Finally, Lord, let's have a special intention for the families of the young people that were killed in the car crash last night on I-10. And we'll close with one blessing, Lord. We thank you for the blessing for Councilman Todd Lambert, who's at the hospital, celebrating the birth of a new grandson from his daughter and his son-in-law. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, let it be known that all councilmen are here except Councilman Todd Lambert. We'll move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please sign in with the Secretary. I have one person that wants to speak on item number 3. Mr. Nicky Prejean, you want to speak on item number, you had 3 down there? Which one is it?
I might have been ignorant, they didn't know glasses.
Okay, it was 8.
Comments about anything?
It was 8. Okay, we'll get you at 8. We'll move on to agenda item number 4. The chair would recognize a motion for the acceptance of the minutes of the February 7th meeting. We have a motion by Councilman Thompson, second by Councilman Cullen. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. On the chairman's report, I'd like to just briefly announce that some of our work with the Corps of Engineers and working with the Pontchartrain Levee District and working with this group right here and everybody involved, that we got some drainage projects that have been on the books since basically before I got here that are coming to fruition, and we hope to have some groundbreaking in the near future. And that's all I have. We move on to agenda item number 6. Mr. Rue, drainage report.
Yes, sir. Again, we've handed out your district schedule and work that's going on in individual districts. If you have any questions about any, I'll give our office a call in the morning and we'll be glad to go over some of the districts. On the general stuff, I'm just going to mention a few things. One thing on the major channel improvements, we're waiting with up to $6 million grant. FEMA came back and asked, requested more information for that grant to qualify for the grant. So we're in the process of applying that to them now. It might push the awarding of the grant back a little bit further than what we originally anticipated. So we're still working. It's still a viable contract or fund grant, and we're still hoping to get up to $6 million.
Do we have anything that's standing in our way?
It's just bureaucracy. The
Okay.
application process.
It's information that we have on hand or we have attainable. We don't have to commission anybody to get that information.
Our engineering department's working on it.
Okay.
A couple other things on the capital improvement projects. On the capital improvement projects, of course, we having the pre-bid meeting next week on the Marvinboro pump station. It'll be going to bid in a couple of weeks, and we have a lot of activity. A lot of people are interested in bidding on it, which is good for us. Usually, it brings the price down, the more people have bidding. So it is good news on that end. Tonight, you're going to be we're going to ask for the permission to advertise for bids on the Henderson Bayou project. And we'll be going for advertising within a week and bids within 30 days for that project. We have met with Pontchartrain Levee District, Steve Wilson and the attorney for Pontchartrain Levee District concerning the contract between East Ascension Drainage and PLD, Pontchartrain Levee District. And I'd like to give you a little clarification of what we're actually trying to do. And I've finally understood, after that meeting, the full scope of in the intentions that PLD is putting forth. What we're actually trying to do is get all of our projects within Ascension Parish put into the West Shore major project. That includes what we already have on our books for us: the Marvin Brook Pump Station, the upgrade of the Laurel Ridge Levee, the extension of Laurel Ridge Levee, the Henderson Bayou project, and in fact all the way up to, if we can, the Manchac project and Spanish Lake project. Now, what happens if we're able to include that into the West Shore project is that we may be able to get reimbursement for some of the funds that we already are spending on some projects, and we'll be able to get funding, or at least participation with PLD on some future projects, most notably the Laurel Ridge Levee extension and Spanish Lake project. We have an agreement, I guess a verbal agreement right now between us and the PLD, that if we can get all this included, it's not going to stop us from going forward with some projects. And with the extension of Laurel Ridge Levee is really the most important one right now. And having PLD, participate with us in the funding of that project if we're able to get core permission, core permits. So again, we're not going to be held up waiting for funds, but at least if we put all of this into that major project, then it's a possibility that we can get reimbursement of a lot of the money that we're spending right now. So that's the full scope of that conversation, or the intentions of the contract with PLD, and the full scope of work for those projects. So it's really something that is really going to help us out, and Pontchartrain Levee District is working with us on it. So, other than any comments or any questions?
Yeah, once the agreement, once we got the wording right on the agreement, it'll come before this board.
We're working on the language. The meeting was between the PLD attorney and our attorney, Ms. Amanda, myself, and Steve Wilson. And it was a good conversation. I have a better understanding now what we should be doing and how we should work this project.
Just to clear up some of the people that haven't seen that, initially when it was brought to us by the PLD to basically look at it, well, we had some questions up front that took a long time to answer based on our areas of responsibility and whatever kind of rights that we were either gaining or giving up. And
again,
in the right direction.
It's a federal project mainly to do with surge protection from major hurricanes. That's how it came about for us, the West Shore project south of us and other parishes. And again, that's where we're pushing it in our parish, because the West Shore project can tie into Marvin Brook Pump Station. So this is just an extension of that project and upgrading everything to the same standards. So we have total surge protection all the way up to Manchac at least.
Yes, sir. Mr. Thompson, you want to speak?
I was going to ask him about where we were on Panama and Conway with the PLD, and what's the timeline on when they going to start the work?
Well, again, this is tied into what I was just talking about. Since the levee or the surge protection, West Shore project is going all the way up to the Marvin Brook Pump Station as it stands right now. What happens is it has to cross the two outlets of Panama and Conway. In other words, some type of levee or floodgates can have to be put in on those structures to keep the flow or the surge protection from coming up those two bayous. So that's the main part of what the study was for right now. Now, for the channel cleaning of those projects, we included that into the $6 million possible grant from FEMA to do initial cleanup of the two bayous. Not major improvements, but some significant improvements to the bayous with that $6 million.
Yeah, I think we have representatives from the engineering firms working through the PLD. On that project, Jake, you want to give an update on? Can you give any kind of short update on it, Conway and Panama?
My name is Jake Lambert with GSA, engineering consultant, working in conjunction through the PLD and also 50% split with the East Ascension Gravity Drainage Board on this project. The Panama Conway study encompasses two major parts. Number one, as Mr. Bill had alluded to, that was a master study to figure out how the Panama Conway drainage basin will fit into the West Shore Hurricane Protection Project. We looked at the big picture, what type of system is needed at the interface with the proposed levee in the future. But also, we're looking at some of the existing drainage deficiencies within the basin right now. Some of the tasks that we're operating under right now are that we've isolated some targeting channel improvements that are the most important priorities. We've broken it down into about $1 million or $1.5 million project that could be done, implemented very soon once it's permitted. And then subsequent to that, there's going to be a long-range plan for a more broader dredging plan that could be in place. And those recommendations are forthcoming when we complete our report in the next week or two. Hopefully I'll have this thing wrapped up and submit a draft to the parish for review, also the Pontchartrain Levee District for review, because it's a 50-50 endeavor. And at that time, obviously, we would take comments or questions and try to incorporate any comments or concerns that you guys have into changes that would be made.
Yeah, I guess that
So
kind of falls, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You telling me you would have the completed document to us in 2 weeks?
The draft.
The draft in
Yes,
2
sir.
weeks?
And then y'all would have however long y'all need to review it, and then we'll make some comments and put a final.
And Jake, that's your draft of what you said are some of the short-term things for.
Well, what we have, and we worked very closely with Councilman Shake Snyder and Thompson on these things. They obviously, the client always drives some of the performance criteria of a project, and so they asked us to, hey, look, break us out something that we can do and make the most bang for our buck right up front. They gave us the number $1 million, $1.5 million. And then also, what's the big picture? What's the long range? What do we need? Okay. Some of the other directives we were working under is in discussion with Mr. Rue, is we didn't want to have to have any environmental impacts. Basically, we tried to minimize our wetland disturbance, and also we didn't want to have to go and acquire a bunch of right-of-way for this project. So, those are some of the conditions that we're basing our recommendations on, And that's always the process when we go back and forth. We find out what the client, what the parish needs, and we try to tailor the solution to some of those sensitive issues.
So basically, like I said, you're looking at what you can do, some short-term fixes. That's the same thing what Bill's talking about, is we're getting money for, and then you're also working on the long-term. And then the fact that at some point, the West Shore project comes up, then it's going to integrate into those canals.
We'll have a
That's how they
section.
dump.
Yes, sir. We'll have a section in our report that basically states when and if this levee comes, what needs to occur, what we would recommend to occur. Well, is it going to be a pump station, what size, or how we need to handle it.
Yes, sir. Mr. President.
That last statement you made, when and if that levee comes, I'd like to know if the levee comes, how long are we looking at, and before it would get to the pump station? How many years are we looking at for this project to actually come to fruition to where it gets to Marvin Brew pump station? And also on the Panama study and Conway study, the document that you're preparing, is that something that we can utilize immediately to go in and start doing the work?
It will be a document that you can use to pursue your permitting on. And then typically what the parish would do is create cut sheets and then go out and do the survey necessary to perform the,
Jake, it should be enough for us to take the information you've got and actually look at a budget to go in and do the work that
we're
you're
gonna have
talking
a
about.
preliminary project cost estimate, in there, and, obviously that'll be something that the parish can comment on in draft form of the document.
Westlake, how long you
I have very little involvement with the project, but I know that, I don't know
Henry, could you answer
Mr.
that question?
Picard is interested, but that's a project they've spent a lot of time working on.
Mr. Picard, can you enlighten us on the possibility of the time frame for the West Shore project by the Corps of Engineers reaching
To get to
Marlboro
the
pumping
punch,
station?
yeah, that's right.
Yes, I can. We are working with the Corps of Engineers right now in the feasibility study. We have to go through what they call the NEPA process, where we look at all the environmental issues. That plan is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2012. It then has to go up for review. The Corps is predicting that it would be available for funding or available for authorization in a 2014 WRDA bill. That's if there is a 2014 WRDA bill.
Let me stop you there. When was the last word of bill?
2007.
Okay.
Yeah, they try to have them every 2 years, but it hasn't happened.
A lot of this stuff is going to be funded by offshore oil royalties, too.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna be my next question.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the funding would come from, but bottom line is we have to get authorization from Congress, then they have to fund it, wherever they find their funding source.
So that's,
To construct the levee, it'll take about a 10-year process, because what they'll do is they'll do an initial first lift, that could be completed within about a 4 to 5 year period. They'll let it sit for a number of years, and then they'll come back with a second lift where it brings it up to the final grade, because we do anticipate a fair amount of settlement in that project.
so we're
You're
looking.
talking about an integration of several pumping stations along that area.
Yes,
That line.
what we're looking at is very, very preliminary. We've done some sizing for the Pontchartrain Levee District. The Corps has not agreed with our numbers, but we have, what we are looking at for the Levee District is pump stations at, for example, the Woodward-Muntz Canal over in Laplace, the Reserve Relief Canal, Blind River, Panama Conway.
We're looking at 25 to 30 years.
Yeah, before it's finished.
20 years if everything, yeah, if everything went
long-term
perfect,
project.
maybe 20 years, and those things don't usually go perfect, so, but anyway, that kind of answered my question on that particular project. On the other project is, again, we talked about Manchac before, and we've looked at the locks and stuff. Have we made any progress more with the Shaw study?
Again, I don't have anything to update on that, and we're
Mr. President, we'll try to get somebody from the
No,
PLD to give us a...
No, they gave it,
I know that.
Past President, you are correct. I mean, we go
Yeah.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years, and we was promised like 4 months, and now we're 2 years with Shaw. I mean, obviously,
We're not claiming.
oh, absolutely not,
We
absolutely
appreciate
not,
it. We-
absolutely not. But,
And the whole
time
thing
is
is,
too long.
if it's gonna be feasible projects, we need to know that.
Absolutely.
If not, we need to take action. Nobody's fussing at anybody, nobody's hollering at anybody, nobody's accusing anybody. Bottom line is, we need to decide which direction we're going in. If we have any money left over once we finish these major projects, we need to prioritize our projects and go ahead and get started and plan for those and do those permits. The other thing is, hopefully after this year, when legislature convenes, we will be involved in part of the coastal zone.
Right.
So we will become eligible at that point for monies. So we got a lot of things that we as a board have to decide
right.
in the meantime, that we can hopefully give our citizens some immediate relief. I understand about long-term projects, but if we can do something and utilize the money that we bonded to come up with some projects that will certainly help us in the immediate future, that's kind of what it's not a grilling, it's just a question.
Well, I can tell you, I don't think I am. I can tell you, for me, I'm not, and I'm sure there's a lot of members up here on this board that are not necessarily waiting for the West Shore project to be the catch-all and the savior to everything that we have. I think that, the PLD certainly we can try to get us an update on what's happening with Bayou Man Shack. It's just been up in the air. We can't get any straight answers on it, and the people that are actually engineering that for the PLD probably need to go through them to come in and give us some updates on it. We haven't had anything clear in a year, I think, that we've been asking for a year. I remember last spring that we met on it. It's a 3-parish issue that we still got to get all 3 of the parishes together before we can talk about what we're going to do. Certainly,
That's for sure.
Mr. Valentine's district, we got several issues up there that I think we ought to parallel path, just like we're doing with Conway and Panama, that we need to work on just getting them fixed and seeing what we can do. But I know in good faith that we hope to have what we do coordinates with what's going to be done in the future, that we're not wasting it. But you definitely need some relief up there.
That's the point, I mean.
I understand your frustration, sir.
I'm not frustrated, I just want to know,
Mr. Shakespeare.
Jake, while we're talking about that, I know there had been a request to use some information to Loma, some areas out of the floodplain.
Yes, sir.
And the information was given. What do we need to do? We have a large number of people around Pelican Crossing, Pelican Point area that have been put in the floodplain in the last few years, and there's a possibility to get Lomaed out. What do we have to do to get that information and get that?
The process for that would be to apply to FEMA for a letter of map revision, which would basically ask them to take the model that we, and also we worked with BKI, take our model that we've produced and incorporate or evaluate our model for the merit of incorporating our data into the FEMA flood maps.
Okay.
They have a set of criteria and provisions things that they would probably want to see, and then they would decide whether to use our data or stick with what they've got.
Okay, and
we have some indication that the model that they used, we feel may have some deficiencies, but it's going to have to be.
Yeah, they're
going to have to evaluate it.
This is the most up to date.
Now, I'll tell you, to my knowledge, there is a private entity right now in the basin that's pursuing a site-specific LOMR, letter of map revision, and I don't know. That may be a good indication of what would be the result of if we tried to go and get the entire basin evaluated. So I'm not sure where that's going, but we've been working with the Pontchartrain.
I definitely think it's more areas than Pelican Point. We got a lot of areas.
Well, yes, but this is the
painted
study in
over.
that area, Panama Conway, and
That particular basin, I
that
guess, we've
particular
got the
basin.
data on.
We're looking at 2 issues here now, and one is the models, and we have models just about of all the regions of the parish that we can be submitting to the Corps or to FEMA. The other thing also, and just came out in other parishes, is they're reconsidering the inside non-federally funded levies, which they did not consider before, which is most of our levies are non-federally funded levies. So they're re-looking at that, and we're going to be submitting some our information to them and see if we can get included for a revision of the maps for areas that's within our Laurel Ridge levy district and Marvinboro pump station.
Are we going to submit the information, let's say for this and everything else as a parish to get a revamp?
We're looking at the whole deal, inside the levy system and also the models throughout the parish, which when we get that model, that'll give us a model of just about all our major basins.
Okay.
I know, just FYI, I know Lafourche Parish, in the South Lafourche levy district, Mr. Wendell Curall
I
down
talked to
there.
Charlotte.
very, very proactive. They've been fighting battles with FEMA, and they've got a very, very a unique situation down there with all of their geography and the way they're situated. But they've been fighting with FEMA for a number of years, and I think they, from what I understand, they're finally making some headway. But don't think this is going to be somebody sending in a form and next thing you know it's changed. But it's definitely a fight worth pursuing if there's some merit to it. And the indications that we have is that definitely some of the basins that we've looked at, there could be some merit in pursuing it. And, it doesn't hurt to try, I guess. I've never been through the process myself, but it seems like, I know other parishes are doing it.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Benny?
question, Bill, and make sure I got my information right now. Mr. Picard was saying that this bill, this funding for this Westlake, they do this on every 2 years, and they had West Shore project. They haven't done that since '97, is that correct?
2007.
Okay. So what's our benefit if we put our stuff in this project? I mean, if it's funding, I'm assuming is what we're after.
It's several benefits. Number one, there is a possibility that we can get reimbursement if we go forward with it now with our own money or participation us in PLD to actually fund the project right now. It's a possibility that we can get reimbursement, number one. Number two, if we get included into the West Shore, it's easier to get the permitting to go forward with the levees because it's hard for them to tell us this is not warranted or you're going through wetlands, it's not beneficial when they grant the other parts of the project. So once you include in a project and they say it's feasible to do it, it's easier to get permits. So that's the other part of it.
So the big-
But this is not going to hold us back if we have available funds from going forward with the projects that we have on board. Most notably is the extension of Law Ridge Levee and upgrade of the present levee.
And that's on any project.
Yeah, well,
that we're
if they haven't
proposing.
funded this thing in a number of years, I mean, if it's not financial, what other reason are we looking at getting in this project? If it's beneficial for us to get the permitting done easier, then fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're looking to get money and they haven't funded this thing in many years, what's the chances of them funding in the future?
Matter of fact, just to recap one of our meetings with the Corps of Engineers is that, they've been working with us, and we're trying to let them know that the people of Ascension Parish are very proud people. They paid a lot of money for a lot of years to try to get their own protection without federal funding. And, by law, we need their blessing, their permit. So we asking them to work with us right now, give us the permits, work with us, and, we have the funding. The people of Ascension Parish, of East Ascension, have put up the money.
Right.
And let's move forward. Let's try to get our projects in, and anything they can do past that, we appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Shea.
Yeah, I've attended a number of meetings on the East Bank where they're doing the levee protection. And one of the things that has happened is the parish have joined together and done these levee plans with multiple parish entities or plans. And it has been very good because then they go to the federal government with multiple parishes doing a plan that is regional in scope more than local, and it's been they've received hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're constructing right now, and this is the same thing that the same parishes want to do on the East Bank. It's called the West Shore because it's the West Shore of Pontchartrain and all, but it's very much being talked about and it's very much going forward. The general feelings of all the people that were involved in the other projects was this is the next thing that they're doing, and so it seemed very positive in all the meetings that I attended.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify what the word of bill is basically what parish president, based on his experience, and the engineering firms here can back it up, is that it comes up, but it don't always get passed, and sometimes they pile it up till they can throw a little money together up, on the federal level. So it's not a guaranteed thing, but that's where that funding comes from. Any other questions, any discussion on the capital projects? Without any further discussion, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, purchase of wetland mitigation units, Henderson Bayou Flood Control Project. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir, the Corps determined that we need 7.5 acres of mitigation credits. $35,000 an acre comes to $262,500. We asked for approval of the contract between East Ascension Gravity Drainage District and the Coastal Rental Corporation doing business as Timberton Wetlands Mitigation Bank for the purchase of 7.5 acres of cypress tupelo gum mitigation units required for the U.S. Corps of Engineers permitting of Henderson Bayou floodgate at a cost of $35,000 an acre and a total cost of $262,500, and authorize the parish president to execute all necessary documents.
We have a motion by Mr. Dempsey Lambert,
Second.
second by Mr. Chris Lord. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Shake Snyder?
It just gets very frustrating when we buy mitigation units, when we've been looking forward and trying to get our own mitigation bank and for a lot cheaper. Is there something, I know it's been talked about a long time, is there something that we're looking at? I hadn't gotten any feedback on, but I know some people have approached us about some mitigation bank.
Mr. President, you care to speak on that?
Well, mitigation banks are it's a long, tedious process. In fact, when I was in before, I tried to buy some property at Laurel Ridge. At that time, it was basically a one-to-one unit. I think we could have bought it for like $350 an acre. Didn't do it, didn't look forward. Then a couple others got built around here. But the problem with a mitigation bank is if you got to have enough land to make it worthwhile to go ahead and go through the process. It's about a 2-year to 3-year process to get it done. It probably would cost you, from an engineering perspective, about $250,000 plus whatever land that you would have to purchase. Hopefully, in the overall scheme of things, we had budgeted, I think, $300,000. Is that correct, Bill? For the Henderson Bayou project, came out maybe $32,000 below cost. There's just not a whole lot of property that's available to do this on anymore. Believe me, if it would, it's pretty good to get $35,000 an acre for a swamp. And it's a tough situation. I'm glad people do it, and I'm glad we have an opportunity here at least to keep our money in Ascension Parish. But we've looked into it. We can continue looking into it. It's a very expensive endeavor. Don't know how much more we're going to utilize or need in the future, but I'm sure it's going to be quite a bit. The key is that it has to be in the you can't buy mitigation units or habitat units on the west bank of the river. It's got to be within that floodplain. So you just can't go out and buy them anywhere now. You got to have them within what the floodplain that it affects. Unfortunately, the property here is very, very expensive now. So if you could buy it for $300 or $400 an acre and then convert it, that would be one thing. And what they're mostly looking for is wetlands that's been converted to croplands. Years ago, they actually looked at swamp, tupelo gums, cypress, those type things as being what they really wanted. But now they've changed their attention to doing what they're doing. But to answer your question simply, we can continue looking at it, but I don't know if it's feasible that we do it. And I don't know if it's feasible that we don't do it. So it's a tough situation to find a proper.
Please let's continue.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's not a lot of cheap swamp out there anymore in that bank. Any other discussion on, any opposition? Motion passes. We move on to agenda item number 8, authorization to advertise for bid, Henderson Bayou Flood Control Project. I have 3 speakers on this. Let's see, first speaker, Mr. Mitch Epps.
Thank you very much. Mitchell Epps, and I was one of the original sandbaggers and the East Ascension Parish back in the early 1980s when we were having such extensive flooding in East Ascension, and the sandbaggers were instrumental in getting a master drainage plan developed and also getting the voters to approve the half-cent sales tax that we're all familiar with to implement and get the work done on this drainage plan. And I'd just like to take a moment to compliment y'all and thank you for getting the last phases of this master plan done and getting the Henderson Bayou floodgate completed there. Quite a few of the members of our sandbaggers are no longer with us now. In particular, I like to remember Marvin Blow, which was one of the police jurymen at the time. With his tireless efforts resulted in the Marvin Blow pump station, which we're all familiar with. And if it wasn't for that pump station, Gonzales and this immediate area wouldn't be what it is today. That pump station has certainly saved this area. And I know the Henderson Bayou floodgate's going to be equally as beneficial in the growth of this parish. Thank y'all again.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. Our next speaker, Mr. Nicky Prejean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nicky Prejean, Lake Martin, Santamon. I prepared a letter and hand-carried to different departments. Whether the Drainage Commission seen the letter or not, don't know. I want to apologize. I didn't like the closing my secretary had, and she forgot to put, with all due respect, when will the Lake Martin area see protection? I'm in total agreement with elevating the Laurel Ridge levee, making it as long as y'all want, the Henderson Bar floodgates. At some point in time, we got a little section of 200 families live at Lake Martin. Probably the councilman, due all respect, Mr. Lambert, may not end up with that area after the election with the redistricting and stuff. Might even be in Randy's district. He might not even want to be a councilman, who knows? But nevertheless, I still live there and don't ever plan to leave. I know extending the Laurel Ridge levee and elevating the Laurel Ridge levee and encouraging, which I think the people in the Galvez area certainly deserve attention at the Henderson Bar pumping station, without a doubt. Now, we're right in the middle of those two. Unless we can invent some Northwest fans, we're going to have issues in these 200 families and probably 1,500, 3,000 acres. I commend you all, like I did at the beginning of my letter, and like I did publicly here on 3 other occasions. I love the unity the council shares with our parish president. First time in history, certainly the first time in 16 years, have I witnessed that. I even like Chairman Pat Bell. And I see he's losing weight. I don't know how, but nevertheless, I want to thank you all, because everyone can criticize some of the energies and efforts you all put forth in representing all of the people in East Ascension and whole of Ascension. Some of us get careless with words, and I know you all have extended visits with committee meetings and meeting with engineers, meeting with projected funding efforts and a minimum amount of tax. If we had a lot of money, we probably wouldn't be wasting as much time as you all have. I just would like for you all to keep in mind the 200 families live at Lake Martin. Between a pumping station and pretty good drainage for the far northern part of the parish, and then raising the Laurel Ridge levee on the south side of us, we might need to make Lake Martin out of that whole little area and not have any people there. But, hey, I know y'all can figure it out. Just kind of keep us in mind. At one point in time, the pot's going to get low on funds, and we ain't going to have any money for any kind of protection in Lake Martin. And I thank you for your time, and I'm going to be back up here before May with my second $25,000 installment that I'd made a commitment for Lamar Dixon. And there again, I'm skeptical, but I'm really pleased you all made that endeavor, and I read in the paper where things is on the plus side, not by a whole lot, but at least we didn't have no $2-3 million negative like some of the people were making us believe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have, next speaker is Officer Randy McCoy.
How y'all doing tonight?
Let's say, Randy.
All right. Look, I live in the same area as Nikki, but I'm not as, how would I say that?
Happy?
Happy as he is, okay? And this is directed to Councilman Lambert, and my councilman, which is not here tonight, have you ever once come through the Lake Martin area when it floods? Have you ever seen the devastation it does? I talked to an engineer, and he said it's not the amount of water that comes through, it's the force of water that comes through. We're the last area in the parish that anybody wants to fool with for some reason. And I would really would like to know why. Everything else gets cleaned up but Lake Martin and the back streets back there. They got trees across the ditches. It's nasty, it's dirty. But as long as it looks presentable from the road, I guess it's all taken care of. Ditches not getting dug out. And you talk about a pumping station at Henderson Bayou. You know where that water's going to go, Councilman Lambert? Right through the diversion canal, Ament River, and right through Lake Martin on to us. It's not the amount of water, it's the force of water. What you going to tell an individual when his house gets washed off the blocks? Oh, I'm sorry? I'm a public servant just like you. Been a public servant for 20 years. It's not but two. I heard a person tell me the other day, well, there ain't that many of y'all live back there. You know what happened if I said that on my job that, oh, you're only one person. We can forget about that. I'd be convicted on something. And a lot would happen. Gentlemen, do we know what our public servant really is? Answer yourself that when you leave this room tonight. Am I really a public servant or am I a politician? Think about that. The things I'd like to know about that pumping station is, has the public ever been made aware of this situation? And where's it going to go? In 1982, they started with a levee back then, they got shut down. What's the impact study of the area? Where's this water going to go? I mean, to me, I know we don't have the funds to do the whole thing, but it would be nice to look at, say, you know what, we're going to do the Henderson Bayou and the Law Ridge Levee in one sweep. It's going to be all done at one time. Because you can't, the last time it flooded a couple years back, there was an announcement, everybody east of 431 from Black Bayou to Port Vincent needs to evacuate. I think that's a bunch of hogwash. Sure, we did a fine job of cleaning up the bayous and everything around here through the parish. It drains great through Gonzales right out to the Marvin Brook pumping station. It's a great project, fellas. That's a great deal. I think it's great. The parish drains good. Well, I've been living in that area 29 years, and I'm fed up. I am fed up. And I just wonder, yeah, there's not but 200 of us back there. But when one floods, that's too many. Don't you agree? I mean, think about that. I'm all for the Henderson Bayou project, but I think it ought to be done all at one time, not in sections no more. If we don't have the money, then we don't have the money. We'll find a way to, and talking about going to Pontchartrain and doing all this, let's clean our parish up first before we go somewhere else. Let's fix our backyards. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Authorization to advertise for bid for Henderson Bayou Flood Control Project. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll be greatly appreciated to give the motion for this.
We have a motion by Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dennis Cullen. Any discussion?
Objection.
We have one objection. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Schexnayder?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
No.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dempsey Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Lohr?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Cullen?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 9.
We have discussion.
Yes,
I
okay.
just wanted,
Yes, sir. I'll give you time.
I just wanted to give a couple of thanks, especially out to Colonel Fleming with the Corps of Engineers and his staff. Parish President, Mr. Roof, scheduling the meeting to meet with them at their office. I mean, it's really moved the project on, and I really appreciate it. There's a lot of folks out there, we've been waiting a long time for this, and our time is now. So, thank y'all.
I apologize for being so fast. Anybody else have any other comment on that before we move on to the next item? Mr. President.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody and maybe just kind of make a few comments about Mr. McCoy's statements. I can understand, I live in that area, I live on 431, and when the water comes up on that side, I can tell you it's deep. I look across the road and it's like a lake, and it starts coming through the culverts on 431, and my house looks like a lake. So I understand the frustration. The original plan, just to go to Stout's Pond or Prince Road, to me, made no sense at all, because he talked about the velocity of the water. If you would have blocked that water in, and you'd have created that channel, you'd have stopped the water from flowing, and the velocity would have been a lot higher. So I think that the study that Jacob's doing now is going to come back and tell us maybe a little bit more about what needs to be done, and then he may not have to, you can't do it halfway. You got to have to do it the whole way, because you could make a bad situation a lot worse than it is today. But it's certainly worth something, and I think that the priority needs to shift to that at this point. And if we do get into the coastal zone, that's the project that we need to certainly go after. So I just wanted to kind of, I don't know if he's still here, and look back, but to let him know that, it's something that we hadn't forgotten about, and it's something that we're looking at right now to kind of see what, as far as the water, Henderson Bio water, that was one of the problems with the Corps permit. We did have to show that it had no negative effect on that area once the Henderson Bio pumps were built. So that's something that we took our time with, spent money on, to make sure that those people didn't get any extra water.
Thank you, sir. Any other comment? Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 9, authorization to amend and renew the intergovernmental agreement between East Ascension Drainage and Parish of Ascension. And this is a technicality. Mr. Rue, this is not a new agreement.
This is, and actually I have renew in there. It's not actually necessary to renew it. We are asking for amendment to it. And in the document, we're asking to amend it to agree to follow all parish ordinances, section 2-81, 2-82, in regard to procedure for entering into new or renewal contract for professional services. So that's the important part of it. The renewal is not necessary because it automatically renews. So we're asking for you to approve the amendment to the governmental agreement as written.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Lord, second by Councilman Benny Johnson, to authorization to amend the intergovernmental agreement between East Ascension Drainage District and Parish of Ascension. Any discussion? I just want to let everybody know, since we're not going to have a lot of discussion on this, has nothing to do with money, nor does it change anything. That's for the people out in the audience and the people on TV. That this has to do with keeping with the good ethics of professional services and the selection process that we've implemented several years ago. Anybody, any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Move on to agenda item number 10, approval of a cooperative endeavor agreement between Holy Rosary Catholic Church and East Ascension Drainage District for the construction of a bulkhead.
Yes, sir. We're asking for approval to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Holy Rosary Catholic Church and East Ascension Gravity Drainage District for the construction of a bulkhead, and authorize the parish president to execute the agreement after legal review. This is a standard procedure for the district. We participate in such cooperative endeavor agreements with churches and nonprofit groups and governments.
We have a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Shake Snyder. Discussion. No further discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 11. Authorize budget amendment to increase the 2011 budget for contract payments. Mr. Rue.
Yes, sir, this is going to come before the Finance Committee. I want to bring before the Drainage Board, to just make you aware of it. This money, $300,000, was put in, it was amended in the 2010 budget. We were not able to get to those projects until now, so we want to actually amend the 2011 to add this money to the 2011 budget.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Kent Shakespeare, second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 12.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Dennis Cullen to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Shakespeare. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We are adjourned.